Welcome to The Big Reset, Marketing and Business Edition, a podcast for entrepreneurs, forward thinkers, and marketing junkies embracing new world business strategies and zigging when others zag. Host Scott Harkey is president and CEO of OH Partners, one of the largest and most decorated creative agencies in the Southwest, which has helped open the door for him to sit down with an array of high-octane guests and personalities, all with credible stories to tell and valuable insights to share. As the advertising and marketing industry continue heading towards new world shifts, align yourself with true leaders in the space and make the Big Reset a weekly habit as you stay one step ahead of the masses in your journey to self-educate, learn, and grow your personal and professional brand.
Super excited today to welcome a personal friend of mine and mentor, Ken McElroy. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
Good to have you. Episode 1 of 1 here, but I wanted to have you on, of course, to kick this off. Mr. Entrepreneur to me. And let's get into this. What made you want to become an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh, I'm unemployable for sure. I started working for an entrepreneur right out of. Actually, I wasn't quite out of college, and I just saw the freedom that he had. Right, and he was just making money the way he wanted to make money. Not always, but I was like, man, that's what I want. I want to be able to. We call it now, eat what you kill. Right. I wanted that. I wanted that. I didn't have a problem with not having the steady paycheck.
So we talked a little bit about this, and I actually have another little content episode coming up about mentorship. How does someone get a mentor? I think we met like randomly at the Phoenix Open, and I was like, I love Robert Kiyosaki. Like, he's my partner. And I was like, Rich Dad Poor Dad changed my life. And I was probably all nerdy and like tried to ask you to coffee. And then like, it's been like 15 years later. But like, how would you suggest someone going to get a mentor?
Yeah. So I've been asked that before. And I actually think it's pretty easy. First of all, I don't think you have to pay for it. There's lots of services out there where people are like, get a coach, get a mentor. Nothing wrong with that. But I think they're everywhere. They really are everywhere. And they're everywhere that you wouldn't expect. Like they're like when you're sitting around somebody that's wise, you do. And so that's how I started. I just started, mine was Charlie Dunlap. And I just went up to him and I asked him, I'm like, hey, like, I don't know how your kids love to hang out with you. You have 6 kids and they all want to be with you all the time. And I don't know how you run your companies and how they're so successful and how you've done all this. But, would you be okay with me meeting you once or twice a month? And he said, yes.
And that's how you started?
That's how I started. And I met with him for 12 years.
Wow. I think for me, like I've learned so much. Like I was never a big school guy, like you and I both have like crazy ADD.
Yeah.
And so like, do you think, from a mentorship learning standpoint, like, do you think people learn differently and that's why mentorship like
Without
appeals
a doubt.
to some and some it doesn't, or like, I don't know.
I'll tell you the greatest thing that happened to me. In the first year, he sat and listened to me. And then one day he goes, I think you're full of shit. Literally. And I'm like, yep, you're right. You're like, I think you get this, he
called you out.
100%. And that's actually what I needed. And he continued to do it through my life. But, we get into the self-talk of ourselves, and nobody does that to us, right? Especially if you own a business, it's very few people do that. So I loved that. So he did that on a number of levels until and you know what they were? They were survival mechanisms for me. They were hustle.
Yeah.
And then, and he just saw it differently. And so I completely respected him. And so part of it is just being able to come from a place that that he's being fully authentic.
Yeah. It's so funny. I can relate to that of kind of fake it till you make it early. But then even I remember this was, I think 2 months ago, you called me out on some shit.
Did.
You're like, hey, I want to talk to you about ego, Scott. And it kind of screwed me up a little bit because I respect your opinion. And you were right. I was dealing with some business stuff and you started talking some Eckhart Tolle kind of stuff. And I was like, shit, man, he's right. And I had to process it. But like maybe people calling you out because they know you.
You do have to process it. And I think that's part of it. A lot of times when people say something to you, I think a lot of times people sell through it, they discount it, you know, and for me, that was the beginning of, introspective, you know, maybe they have a point. You don't have to own everything everybody says, but you should listen.
But you and I have been involved in YPO and EO, and you told me earlier again, it's changed my life. I know you're a big proponent of it.
Yes.
Do you think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, or business people out there that don't get that kind of training? I looked up YPO, and how it started was actually similar to like a group therapy, like 12-step for business owners.
Yeah.
Do you think that world of like transparency, authenticity, vulnerability that you and I have got accustomed to really learning and loving from high-powered business people, do you think there's a big population missing out on that?
Without a doubt. Even in YPO and EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. So I happened to be the chairman of the forums one year, which was great. So basically what happens is they break your whole chapter into groups of 8 to 10. Yeah. So I would go around and check out the health of each of those forums. And that was the whole point. The whole point is you want to make sure that the health is there, because if the health is there, then people renew and they get a better experience. And the number one issue was authenticity, you know, the fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And so whenever there were things inside of a forum that weren't tight, it always had to do with somebody, you know, maybe not telling the truth or bending the truth, and somebody not calling them out. Always. It was always that issue. And so, you know, there's always these things that are unsaid. So it's like we all see this, like you're sitting in a meeting and somebody says something, then you know, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're stretching. I told a buddy of mine yesterday, I go, listen, everything you say, I divide by 3. I just want you to know that. And he started laughing. I go, literally, whatever you say, I divide by 3. And you know, and I think that, you know, you have to have that. You have to have and you have to accept it, and you have to have you have to be in an environment. In my forum, could never say anything. It would be called out immediately. I would get hit from every single angle, from every single person immediately, if I wasn't being authentic to myself.
Ken, for those people that don't kind of know your background, I mean, you know, I know you as author, entrepreneur, real estate investor, you know, fun guy to golf with, you know, mentor, but maybe give some of the people like kind of a background on you as Ken the businessman.
100%. So I was born and grew up in the Pacific Northwest. My parents never went to college, so we grew up, you know, I would say below middle class. My mom was a hairdresser. My dad was a sheet metal worker, and really an environment that nobody was really expected to go to college. So I ended up wrestling. I got a scholarship. That's what got me into college. Even in the first couple of years, I didn't appreciate the education at all. I was there to go to the Olympics, and that was basically it. And then I realized I was not that good, so I ended up having to figure out what was next. And then I went to work in the property management business in Seattle. And that's when I learned the world of real estate, you know, and managing apartments and buying apartments. And so I did that for 8 years, the property management side. And one day I realized, I was like, you know, I'm going to make okay money, but I'm going to have to be on the other side of this. I'm going to have to own these buildings, and I'm going to have to hire guys like me. So that's when I made the leap, jumped over. That's when I learned how to buy apartments, buy commercial real estate, raise capital, you know, deal with lenders, hire a property management company. So now I own just a little over $1 billion worth of apartments, self-storage, office buildings, and started with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath that I used my own money, and then I had to figure out how to raise money, and I've just been doing that. So I've got about 250 employees, and we're in multiple states, and through learning how to grow a business, I got into EO. Yes. And then I got into YPO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization and Young Presidents Organization, because I didn't know how to run a business.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn how to run a business, how to create a company culture, how to hire better, all the things that happen in a silo as a business owner. There's nobody really to talk to. You can't sit down with an employee that you hired and start to talk to them about money issues or people issues or, you know, merger issues or whatever it might be. So those organizations afforded me the opportunity to be able to dip my toe into all these topics that I didn't know anything about.
That's cool. And I remember when I met you, you were like, you got to get into EO. You got to get into EO. And which I did, and it's changed my life too. I mean, I didn't graduate college, so it was like this was my college. It was learning from people, learning from business owners, and now Mike Noble, one of our companies, he's in EO now. So it's a cool group of business people for sure.
Yeah. Well, as you know, along the way, I met Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
For me, he was just another guy that I was raising money from, and he had at the time, Rich Dad Poor Dad was out and doing really well. And but for me, I was just looking at him as somebody to fund one of my deals. And I started to learn a lot more. I started really to dive into personal development because Robert is a massive personal development guy. So I started to read more. I started to go to more seminars. I started to watch more stuff. And I started to learn the power of, just immersion into, self-discovery, personal development, and those kinds of things. And one thing that Robert said to me was, be careful of who your teachers are. So that was, it always stuck with me because, you who you listen to is important.
Wow. Did you know when you met Robert, or like how long did you know to I'm going to be an author and I'm going to coach people and inspire people to be investors and business people like Robert did?
I didn't know. In fact, he had just written Rich Dad Poor Dad,
which by the way is the best. It's the best business book I've ever read. That book changed my life literally.
Yep. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 20 years. And so
Scottsdale guy. I mean,
yeah, right. And so he just happened to be in town, which was great. And then he said, "Hey, you need to write a book." I go, "I don't know how to write a book. I wasn't very good at English." And he said, "Well, figure it out." So I did. And that's how I met Kathy.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, our friend Kathy Heasley, who helped me write my first book, and then from there, I've now written 5 more and started the podcast and started the YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is just on fire right now. I think we just passed 230,000 subscribers.
Oh my! I saw that. I was like, I remember you started like a year ago, and I came on. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, Ken started this podcast, And then I was doing research of you coming on. I was like, holy shit, this thing has like gone through the roof.
It's insane. And what's happened in a good way is our people have come out of the woodwork that from all over the country and all over the world, we're getting really good questions and really good information. And in addition to that, some of the influencers that are on YouTube now are coming and said, "Hey, can we be on your channel?" And so, it just is got this momentum that's been wonderful. And the message, on financial freedom, which is kind of my thing, has been great. So it's been a great journey. Our company's just doing great, and I'm really, really enjoying myself.
And it's always been just super easy. There's been no setback, no kicks in the ass. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, every day is a battle, as you know. It looks like firefighting.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So Justin and I actually talked about this, about just creating content. Like a lot of times, like I think in advertising and marketing too, people overthink it, like an analysis by paralysis kind of shit. And it's like, just start creating content. If you are passionate about something, if you have knowledge to provide, like go like old school entrepreneur and just try shit and figure it out. Would you subscribe to that, or do you need the perfect strategy before you go?
I don't think that exists.
No, it doesn't.
So here's what I've learned. I'll do let's say a YouTube video or a podcast that I think is amazing.
Yeah.
And the public tells you if it's amazing, right? Which I love.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so I need to up my game, or I need to figure it out.
Yeah.
I need to talk less or interview more or whatever it might be. So I'm always trying to figure out how to make the next one a little bit better. And so that's what I love. It's like, when you go to a restaurant, how many stars did you get? Do people like it or not like it? And they like it or they watch it or they don't.
Just optimize this shit. That's cool. Okay, so out of all the questions you get from entrepreneurs and people you mentor, what do you think is the best question that a business person entrepreneur could have that you have a great answer for in life? Like there's people struggling out there. There's people getting their ass kicked. Like we've gotten our ass kicked. What do you think is one of those questions that sticks out to you?
Yeah. I always tell people, find a problem and solve it. That's all I say every time. So, and it's really that true. So if you look at, let's just say Uber, which started during a recession, the last recession. They found a problem and they solved it. And, and then Lyft copied them, but whatever.
Airbnb,
that
same deal.
Yeah, they find a problem and solve it. And so that's it. And so, yeah, can it be daunting? Yes. Do you know how to raise the money? Probably not. Do you know how to put the team together? Probably not. There's all these things that stop you.
Yeah.
Your own head says, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. All that.
Yeah.
Everybody has those doubts, by the way. Everyone. Every single person. There's nobody that doesn't have doubt.
What about the money raising part? I get that question all the time. It's like, well, I don't know how to raise money. And like, for me, I didn't start raising money. I just cowboyed, the company and sold clients. But like, you raise money for a lot of deals. Like, what do people miss when they think about raising money?
Well, I think what you'll find is there's a tremendous amount of money out there, and it sits in stocks, it sits in Bitcoin, it sits in with wealth managers or whatever. And most people are actually uneducated about money, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
They turn it over to somebody else and they hope that it goes up.
Correct.
And they meet with their person once a year or something. And so my experience has been that most people aren't that educated around money. And so I found that a really good idea, a really good business idea, a really good plan actually attracts money. Yes. If you've thought it through. So in other words, you have to take it to the next step. You have to know what's an investor going to want. They're going to want their money back and they're going to want a return. Yes. So if you can prove that, let's say you need $100,000 to start something, and you can show that in a year you're going to be able to start paying that back, I'm guessing you're probably going to be able to raise that money. And so a lot of people, they invest in people.
Correct. You told me that. I love that line. You told me that a while back. It's like, I used to invest in companies. Now I invest in people.
Yes.
That really stuck out to me. Just, as I've done deals or thought about things, I'm like, man, that is so true. It's all about the horse. Like a lot of times, not the
I know plenty
jockey.
of people that had okay business plans, but they were just never going to lose the money. They were never going to lose the company. They'll work all night, all day. People. And then I know other people that are like, oh, that didn't work. I'm going to move on to something else. And, and the money's gone.
Yeah.
So it's just, it does eventually, you got to kind of have both. You got to have a business that people want.
Yeah.
You got to have something that works and people will pay for and the revenue can come in. But you have to have that, that fire in somebody. Yeah. And you've had it. You got to have that competitiveness of,
for sure.
I'm housing somebody else's money and how do I get it back to them? And
it's attitude and mindset for sure.
All that stuff.
Okay, the question you said something that sparked my interest right now. Bitcoin's so hot.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the first time I met Kiyosaki for dinner. He pulled out this. It was like $1 million bill from like some country in Africa. Yeah. And he takes it out of his wallet. It's very dramatic. It was awesome. But he's like, you know what this is, and he has this whole talk about inflation, and it stuck with me. And now when you think about, I've been thinking a lot about, forget the podcast. Actually, I just want to know this, like, with all the money coming in from the government right now and Bitcoin on fire, like, what do you think about inflation? Yep. What do you think about Bitcoin? Like, what's the future look like?
So what he pulled out, because I was there, was $100 trillion from Zimbabwe. And it was real money.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And so what he was trying to point out is that certain countries will print money and obviously and devalue the money.
Correct.
And so what Robert always says is, savers are losers. Now, they're not really losers, but he's saying that if you really look at the way
I want to see a Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki off here.
It would be good. But if you look at, like, even Yellen said, hey, 2%, 2+% inflation, right?
Yeah.
So if you just go by what they're telling you already, in 10 years, that means that your dollars, if you save them, are going to be worth 20% less.
Wow. In 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, 2% a year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Inflation, 2% a year.
Right.
Okay.
So if you got, 10 grand.
Yeah.
And it's buying $10,000 worth of stuff today, and then you still have 10 grand in 10 years.
Yeah.
It's going to buy you $8,000 worth of stuff. So that's what they're already telling you. But now this new stuff is, all this new money that's being printed and given to people. I personally believe we're going to see some pretty high inflation. So what you want to do is you want to get into products that are inflation adjusted or that hedge inflation, things like debt, oddly enough, right? So that's why I laughed at the Dave Ramsey thing, because he's like, get out of debt, get out of debt. But the truth is, if you can get in debt right now at 3% and lock it, fix it, you're going to pay it off with cheaper dollars later.
Which is why real estate's going crazy. It's why Bitcoin's going crazy.
Yeah,
because people are freaked out about inflation and interest rates are low.
Yes, that's right.
Huh. And do you think real estate will continue on that path? Or I just feel like everyone's like, I remember 2006 and like I lost everything. And like there's that trauma of the housing crash. Is that what we're facing again?
I believe we are.
Wow. In a couple years?
Yeah, it's going to depend on what they do to give more people more money. And
correct.
Kick the can down the road. They just kicked the eviction moratorium down the road to June. And then we still have this forbearance in place,
correct,
which basically means that the lenders can't foreclose on people. So last I looked, there were around 3 million people that were 90 days delinquent on their mortgage. Jeez. That's just homes. And so I think at some point that has to end. Now, will it end softly? It could. It depends on the kind of money that they throw out there and what they're allowing to do.
But we have an office in Vegas. We do a lot of hotels and tourism kind of stuff, right? And at Las Vegas Regional is like, we're going to see the roaring 20s. And I think we might be on like a cocaine binge kind of situation. And then is it crash? And if you're in real estate and that crashes, but yet your inflation's going to happen. So like, what? I'm confused.
It absolutely, yeah. Well, it's a confusing time. I will tell you what for sure is going to happen. Hotels are in trouble.
Oh yeah, because Airbnb's model, or just in general also, travel.
Yeah, the travel industry's down, and
yes,
and the corporate travel industry's down.
Yeah, that's not coming back.
Right. So those are in trouble.
Yes,
they're already on thin margins, as you know.
Absolutely.
And then I believe that retail's in a bit of trouble. So malls, let's call it malls, and I think that office buildings are in trouble over the longer haul as people's leases start to renew. People, they're going to downsize. It just is. I know friends that have lots of space like yourself
yes,
that might be looking at 20% less or 50% less,
absolutely,
or whatever it might be. And I own some office buildings, so we're seeing that, and so there are definitely sectors of the commercial side that are going to do well. I think apartments are going to do fine.
Wow. Okay.
Because people are going to fall out of single family.
But it seems like they're really expensive to buy right now.
They are.
I don't even own any apartments. I just know people that do.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's been tough.
But you still like it just because it's almost like a mutual fund bond kind of safe kind of deal.
Well, it happened in 2008. We actually that's actually what created this run.
Yes.
Is the housing bubble burst.
Yes.
People came into rentals.
Yes.
And there weren't enough.
Correct.
So it created a massive demand, and it created this little run we just had.
And I watched a video talking about a lot of people living with their parents that we'll see another run for
it's
apartments
already started.
too.
Yeah, I think we passed 27 million of those.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big number already.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to just briefly touch on marketing, because part of this podcast for me is about kind of hard things that people face in life and almost like therapy driven things, because I have an interesting background with that, but also, marketing and authenticity and how those things relate a little bit. What do you think, like, you see out there in marketing for companies, and what do people miss? It's easy for a marketing person like me to say things, and I think sometimes people can roll their eyes a little bit, but I mean, you're a business person first. Like, what do you see with marketing? What are some insights maybe people could take?
This next 10 years is going to be the year of the personal brand.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes. So everybody got to kind of hide behind a lot of that.
Yeah.
But now with all this kind of remoteness and the consulting work, and people are getting together with consultants and groups and things and doing project-based things as opposed to having big overhead, especially now with revenues down on a lot of businesses. I think this is the time to create your personal brand. If you haven't already, you need to, because, even myself, as you know, I started this stuff during COVID.
Yes.
The YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. Now, I already had a decent brand, but now it's gotten a lot bigger just in a year's time, just with a little bit of effort, not a ton of effort. But now people are, asking me all these questions.
You think that stuff's been bigger than like your best-selling book stuff?
It's been crazy.
That's insane to me.
It's been crazy. It really has been crazy. And then you laugh, but I did not know that YouTube paid me when I started.
I saw some ads going on. I'm like, I need to ask him why he's getting on this shit.
They're not mine.
I know.
They run ads against me.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So all of a sudden, I was like, what? Like, all of a sudden, all this money started showing up in our bank accounts. And I'm like, well, yeah, once you get to a certain number, YouTube starts running ads against
quadrant,
you.
Baby. There we go.
Yeah. And so the key to my YouTube channel has been education, not selling.
Yes.
So I think if you go on YouTube, you find a lot of people trying to sell stuff.
Yes.
And so for me, I was just trying to educate, and that's proved to be a good strategy.
I couldn't agree with you more about personal brands, and I think it's the year of the underdog brand too.
Yes.
I think major corporations they're shitting their pants, honestly, because they don't stand for authenticity in a lot of cases.
Right.
And I think individuals and personal brands have certainly an advantage if they're authentic, if they're teaching, if they're coming from the right place. Just because media distribution models have changed more than we've ever seen, and distribution of products have changed more than we've ever seen. So it's a wide open game.
It's a great time.
I agree.
If you're sitting there and you have some skills and some experience, trust me, you need to put yourself out there, because you never know. Like there are a tremendous amount of people that need services, and remotely.
Yeah, I agree.
We're doing stuff like, it's crazy. Like you can hire people and all over the world right now. It's the greatest thing ever.
I met with a exec from a major television station yesterday, and he reminded me that 40% of their revenue is down in less than 5 years in that business. And I don't see the television industry, making major changes to make some crazy innovations that they already haven't made. So the year of people creating their own content and niche content and content of choice is it's been going on for a long time, but it's still got a major run left on it. I couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, you just look at Parler, Clubhouse, some of these little, these are all startups.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me. I love watching this stuff, the food delivery and all that kind of stuff. People just decided to start different things, right?
Correct.
Like when everything got shut down, you think of these food delivery services. Now, there were some in place, but there's others that are like racing to get in front of the other ones. And so this is my point. Like,
Do you think we'll look at this as a time like the same time when Industrial Revolution hit and when the computer space hit? Do you think we're in that other kind of decade of time where we'll create more billionaires during this time than
I think
history?
It's very possible. I also think that we're people really need to be paying attention to the currency, the U.S. currency as a world reserve currency, and take a look at the IMF and what's happening, at that level with Bitcoin. The reason I think Bitcoin is rolling like it is because people don't trust the U.S. currency.
Agree with that.
That's really what I believe, and so.
Would you put money into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I would. 100%. I don't. Not a lot though.
But
I'm not afraid of it at all.
A hedge bet kind of deal.
I'm not afraid of it at all.
Okay.
I don't look at it as an investment.
Like Bitcoin, the branded one, or like Ethereum, or one of the smaller ones?
I would do Bitcoin. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people, and you just stick with the bigger.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I also think the Fed is going to come after Bitcoin for sure.
Are they going to break up companies like Facebook?
They did it before.
Yeah,
they broke. Go back to Standard Oil. And,
sure.
They've been doing it.
I think that's very possible.
How long? They back in the I think it was the 30s. They said you couldn't own gold. Right. So
wow.
Right. So they've done it before, and so I think you're going to start to see. I'm not exactly sure, but Yeah, I think people need to pay attention to this, the currency piece as well. And, in addition, I think it's the greatest time for entrepreneurship right now.
I agree with you. I love it. I appreciate you coming on. Every time I talk to you, I learn so much. And let's keep going, man. Let's keep creating positive change and helping other entrepreneurs and other business people out there. And just thanks for listening. This is my first one. So to have you on is like an 100%. Honor. I love it. Been great. And, let's onward and upward, man.
Onward.
All right, brother. Thank you.
See you, buddy.
So again, thank you for coming on.
Of course.
So here's the deal. If you like what you heard, you want to follow Ken's channels, please share us. If you like what you've seen here, give us some feedback, or, we want to optimize our stuff too. But Ken, if you want to give a shout out to some of your social handles and some of your content.
Yeah, just go to Ken McElroy on YouTube, and we got KenMcElroy.com, and you can find all our stuff on there, and you can go to all the different social media platforms.
Yeah, Dougie, thanks for coming on, bro.
100%.
You just experienced the Big Reset, Marketing and Business Edition. New episodes of our highly engaging series drop every Wednesday, while past sit-downs are available to stream or download in our archive. For more, follow your host at Scott Harkey on Instagram. And for more on OH, check out ohpartners.com.